Good evening. You are listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I am your host, Rob. Of course, I'm broadcasting you from the Xtreme Studios, as you all know, is in the Pinos Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. And of course, Central Florida means I've got on the sat phone here from the Great Midwest RDV. And tonight we're going to be talking about long overdue icon that we
Mhm.
love here on Xtreme Movie Show, a little jcvd action, kind of, sort of. In a movie called Black Eagle that came out a little bit before Bloodsport or Kickbox or whatever the hell it was in '88.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, RDB, I remember this movie coming out going, oh, he's got another one, and never saw the friggin' thing because I watched this. I went, what the hell? And at first, I got to admit, I thought this was a canon film because Sho Kosugi was in it, who, by the way, of course, as everybody knows, thanks to us here at Extreme Movie Show,
Yeah.
educating everybody, and the best ninja movie of all time, Revenge of the Ninja, which, of course, Enter the Ninja with Frank and Nero is a close number two. But he ninjas it up, but he's just like the good guy,
Mhm.
and JCV's the bad guy, and they're in Malta, and it's like a Thunderball backstory. And that's really it. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's a thriller. It's not an action movie, and it's only for diehard fans who like this kind of crap, which we do. So let me
It's
ask you what you thought about it, because I'm assuming it's a first watch for you as well.
first watch for me. We talked about this. I'm like, oh, it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme's doing his first movie before Bloodsport, and he plays the bad guy.
If you
I'm
don't
like,
count Breaking.
who counts breaking?
Breaking's tremendous, sir. He's the one jumping up in the back wearing the black leggings and doing the splits, trying to get some airtime. Literally.
Yeah. No Retreat, No Surrender was a lot better than that.
That is true.
First watch for me, obviously. Watched it on Tubi. It's over on there. You guys can check it out for free over there. Yeah, it's. I didn't know what they expected going into this. It kind of felt like your typical '80s spy action movie, kind of like a Roger Moore movie, James Bond in a sense. You got the Russians who want to get this, this guided missile, new experimental missile that was on this F-11 fighter jet, United States, and it was shot down. They're gonna go down and get it, but they pull. They send this other guy. I forgot his name's Ken something. I can't remember what the actor's name is, but it's not important. He's like, I'll go do it first. I'll go there, and he goes over there, and he ends up being like killed. He gets shot with a harpoon in the leg. They bring him on board, and they're interrogating him. You get this colonel, and they get this other guy. It's Russian, and they're like, oh, one wants to interrogate him, and of course, Jean-Claude Van Damme's like, after the American pulls a gun on them, shoots a couple people, he puts them on the ground, gives him a gut punch, and then steps on his neck and it twists, turn twists. I'm like, ooh. And then, so there's classic bad guys argue with each other. Like, oh, we finally get somebody who's alive. We can interrogate him. And you go and kill him. You're savage beast. It is. It feels like a canon film in the sense like that.
It should have been a canon film.
I
It
don't
would
know
have been
why
100 times better, because I think for what little screen time JCV is in here, a couple observations. One, God damn it, he's a good-looking, handsome man. By handsome, I don't mean masculine, or I don't mean gayish, or whatever term people want to use. Whatever. He's just good-looking, nice physique. And his facial expressions in here when he's doing stuff, he's already got it dialed in. And some of the moves, like the palm strikes we see, and some of the kicks, even though him and Cho only mixed it up a couple times here briefly, they still look so damn good. I mean, it's like you could tell this guy's got something, because nobody else in this film does. Even Kosugi, he gets the Kosugi kids with him. There's like zero chemistry. Even the kind of hot, kind of ugly blonde, sort of love interest, sort of not, sort
she's
of wife
more
villain,
the plain
sort of not,
Jane.
is there.
You think he's got? You think it's basically she's a CIA agent that was basically to watch shows kids, and so you're like, okay, you think like, oh, you could tell she's kind of flirting with him a little bit because and then I'm like, oh, are they gonna sleep together? No, this is PG. They don't do that shit here in these movies.
Yeah, and you got and then you've got
but I mean,
JCVD's macking on the ladies. He's like, do you like this job? She's like, with the stone face, like she'd be a great poker player. She goes, I do now. And then of course he's bedding her, and we see his ass and everything, and she's kind of cuter and hotter too. So it's like you want to root for the bad guy.
And you kind of, he wasn't really that much of he wasn't a sadistic bad guy.
No.
He was just a hired muscle lagoon.
Yeah.
I mean, he killed the old guy on the boat. That's about it, though. Took him for swimming lessons.
Yeah, he does the spec off thing in the water where he comes up, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. And he pulls the guy down and then just real quietly strangles him. I mean, this budget was about $150, $200 tops in 1980s money.
Yeah.
I mean,
So of course, because it's a show, and he got he got to have his son, got to have Kane. That's what his name was, Kane, right?
Ken Kosugi is the one
Because,
we're used to, and he's a producer
yeah,
now, I believe.
yeah. He's in there, and then they got another kid playing his older brother or younger. I can't remember what it was, but anyway,
That's the other Kosugi.
So it's both. I didn't realize he had more than one son. I was wondering. I'm like, they kind of look similar. So
The
anyway, so
Kosugi
they're
clan is
yeah.
taking over Hollywood.
Yeah. It's like 15 kids now. No, no. So basically, they're on holiday, and he's and shows upset because his kids are there. He's like, I'm doing this mission for you, and my kids are in jeopardy. Of course, the Russians do go after his kids, trying to kidnap them. They actually do kidnap at least one of them, but Caden gets out. It's away. He runs it. He bumps into these kids on the street, and they start picking a fight. But it's like, what? And they're like, oh shit, it's on. He kicks the shit out of him. This little dude. I'm like, oh yes, like that popped for that scene. I'm like, when's it gonna happen? Whenever his kid's in there, it's a thing. His kid always fights. I thought it was really cool. They ends up being running to a police officer, or an officer, basically, show us to go pick his kid up in there. But like the whole entire movie is kind of like they just want to get the missile off of there, which show eventually does. Plants a bomb on the Russian's boat, saves his friend, goes back, and he meets I guess I forgot the contact. I forgot what his name is, but he's basically like Rambo's handler, he's the CIA guy. He's like, here, gives him a missile, the PC, the guidance systems he wanted, and he ends up in all these days like, you get rid of my kid, get my kids out of here. He's like, and I'll finish this, Of course, that's when all things go away, because that's when the kids get kidnapped. So Sho is forced to basically put on his awesome ninja skills to use. He has the grappling hooks. He has those in there. Picks up the guys one by one. And it is. I just pop for that. And I'm thinking like, so he frees the CIA lady, and his kid. They go out through this little gap in the window on this like little cliff. And they're using AK-47 or whatever gun, and he's got a rifle, and they tie a rope to it, and they're climbing out. I'm like, oh yeah, come on. They always do that whenever they have someone that's climb.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I know, right? I'm thinking like, crunch, there goes the gun, because they're cheap guns. But of course, this leads to a showdown between Jean-Claude Van Damme's character and Sho. They fight a little bit, but then Sho goes away. Later on, we get another fight thing with them. Sho, they both pretty much kick each other in the ass. Fake blood out of the mouth. Jean-Claude Van Damme gets shot in the leg, and his girlfriend's on the boat getting ready to leave, and he's like trying to jump up, and he couldn't because he falls in the water. And tell her jump, because the place they're gonna blow up the boat, And she jumps out, and they're like, yeah, he's like, come here. He starts swimming, and he's chum food because the propellers kill him, which I thought was such a waste, man. Like, I would at least give them a happy ending. Let them because they're going to affect anyway.
Well, there were some interesting things about it, because the majority of this film, like 90% of it, shot on the island of Malta. So there's some interesting shots, like when some guys are tailing Sho, who's wearing all I could describe as 80s dad clothes.
Rooftop scenes, yeah.
Yeah, and awesome. And the rooftop stuff's cool. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of these scenes you've seen them in other films, and you realize, I saw the Born Identity. I'm like, well, yeah, but this was a lot earlier, And
we saw that with the Kane, and I think it was Enter the Ninja 2.
Yeah, that's Revenge of the Ninja. The second one.
Yeah, second one, and where the Kane, the kid, he's being chased by the bad guys, but it's his dad being chased, and he takes out 3 goons with ease, And I love how I'm thinking like. He's running up, and they're going up. There's like, because whether his place is because it's the Mediterranean, right around the Middle East, over there. Mm-hmm. Or is it Italy? Might have been Italy.
Yeah, Italy, around there, off the coast.
Yeah, right around there.
Not the Amalfi Coast.
No. So naturally, when those places were built, they have steps everywhere on the roof. Best ways, and then everybody has either they have wooden steps going up, or they have a wooden ladder. He goes up a wooden ladder on there. I'm thinking like these three goons chasing him. Just pull the damn ladder up. But no, he wanted to lure them out one by one and kill them all. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're dragging it out here a little bit, but overall, this I wouldn't say it's a good movie. I'd say it's at least worth a watch, and that's about it. If you're a fan of Show and Kane, and then
Absolutely,
and
I agree with you on that.
It's a nothing burger.
It's not bad though.
No, it's not horrible. I mean,
so the guy who did it,
yeah, who's the director again?
I don't even know the guy's name, but when I looked it up, I went, this movie doesn't look bad, but it feels kind of cheap. What's going on? This is the guy that did our Chuck Norris favorite, one of our favorite ones, The Octagon. The Octagon's a damn good movie. So, and Show, a lot of stuff that he's been in, he's like the fight choreographer and all that kind of stuff, whether it's a ninja movie or not. So it's, it's his kind of stuff. And I thought to me, out of the two battles that they had, JCVD and Kosugi, the first one, with the steps when he comes up to Kosugi and he's got the gun, he's like, and he just kind of throws off the side and they fight, and he's still got like his 80s suit on or whatever like that, and of course he does the splits and they do stuff. I thought it was nice. I hate to say this because I hate this term 50-50 battle, but it's like he Kosugi almost doesn't have the edge, and then JCVD picks up like a 2x4, like walks after him. Like, well, god damn it, you threw the gun down. If you're going to do that, just pick up the fucking gun. It's one of those kind of movies where you don't want to use intelligence with it. It's just there to kind of exist. But
it's like 90% movies.
But here's the thing: what makes it different is this is not an action movie. It really is kind of supposedly like a spy thriller. Yes. And we don't really care about the what they're chasing, or like in Thunderball. All that. It's what do you got to do to get up to it. And since most of it was shot on Malta, it's kind of cool in that way. I mean, some movies are forgettable. You're probably going to watch this once and that's it. But it's not. It's just not horrible. I don't know what else to say.
The way I describe it is like, I kept thinking about it. You could have put Jackie Chan in this movie, and you would have had more scenes of him doing martial arts.
And it would have been a bit funny.
It would have been funny.
Yeah,
but it's pretty much. But you take away the funniness, you take away a majority of what would be martial arts, and you just got a lot of this kind of like a Roger Moore James Bond movie.
But just no slick, cool stuff. It's we just obviously got done reviewing Octopussy, and one of the comments one of our listeners had on there was that they had a soft spot for Roger Moore, basically, and I thought was whether the films are better or not, it's not the point. They're just more fun than say Sean Connery's. Generally speaking, Connery's a bit more serious, and depending on your mood, what you like, you're like, man, I want to give me some Thunderball or I want some Moonraker. It just there's all these different things to it, and with this movie here, I'm watching it going, okay, I know JCVD, is a bodybuilder. He's got a background. He's about 5'9". He's a solid 180 or so or whatever. Just a really great physique. And then I look at Kosugi and I'm like, all these ninja movies. And I'm like, damn, this dude's small. He's like maybe 5'6", 5'7", maybe a stout 150 or something. Not bad looking physique wise or anything like that. Obviously he's a legit martial artist and everything. But the thing is when you watch a lot of these films in the 80s, it's like watching newsreels. There's not a lot of fat people or a lot of big people, unless you're the hardcore athlete or type. And so I look at somebody like JCVD and I go, man, if you took him today, like say on your other channel, the Geeky Puppet Show, where you review comic books and stuff, and the occasional MCU DC movie type thing. Yeah. Imagine him in his prime, we'll say Ana de Armas, working with him as a love interest, or some other, kind of young upstart that might have some skills and might not, or an Amy Johnson like we've talked about here. This guy, to me, you could take him out of the 80s, put him in now today, and it would work. Stallone, I think, as much as he does a lot of different things, it'd be more of a Stallone film. I mean, the thing is, JCVD is kind of his own worst enemy, got in his own way, and this was filmed before the big movie came out, again, Kickboxer, whatever it was, in '88, and it came out. I distinctly recall going, I don't know what this Black Eagle thing is, because I kept thinking it was a ship or a spy thing.
We reviewed,
but it's not.
What did we review with the magic crystal, what it was, It's
so
pretty much the same.
Imagine those two together.
Yeah, and this kind of felt like the same kind of like story. Like it was just you couldn't really say there's a story or somewhat of a story. This and it both involved children, and goons, and you get the martial arts scene at the end. this really didn't feel like an American movie. It felt more like you're getting like a Hong Kong movie, but with not like 100% fights like you'd want. It's the goons were just there to be goons. And JCVD really stood out. If I had watched this and I had no idea what JCVD is, I'd say like, holy
Who's
crap,
that
this
guy?
guy, yeah, because like this guy, his hair is slick, he's handsome, he's built, he's got the look
He's not
going there,
smiling.
he's got the
He's not
accent,
dancing.
he's got the Christopher Lambert kind of like appeal, I'd say, with the foreign accents. The ladies are gonna love him.
Oh yeah.
He does the splits in this, and I'm thinking like, why isn't this guy a lead star? And I could see within that. That's why when Bloodsport came out. That's why everybody just loved that movie, because holy crap! If you watch this and then watch Bloodsport, you're like, no wonder like people it's like people are like, dude, we're saying it. He could have been a star. He's gonna be a star. And then Bloodsport comes out. It's like holy shit.
Yeah.
Showman, you could. He's another actor. If we put him in some of the, I can imagine seeing him put in some more martial art movies with other people. I mean, him and Jet Li or Tony I. You see a lot of these martial artists, and this movie as well. This was 1980.
88.
88.
Yeah.
I can really see this as this kind of feels like a 90s movie in a sense, more than less than the 80s. I mean, only I can think of if you're gonna do this is say like make it 80s would be the Cold War. Mentioning like it kind of was in this, not a little bit. There was tension between the Russians and the Americans fighting for
Yeah.
But it's like I wanted more 80s, because it didn't really feel 80s. It just felt like you're just going to a foreign country tourist, and that was, like I said, it's really like the Magic Crystal. Same thing. They went to Rome, and they went to they're visiting sightseeing. And this is what it was. I felt like I was doing more sightseeing than watching a martial art movies. So I can't really call this a martial art movie. There's a few scenes. It's like when you watched Invasion USA. That's not a martial art movie. That's just a Chuck Norris movie. At the end, you get a martial arts kick, and that's about it.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. Like I'm so used to like watching Sonny Chiba and like see how much just fighting is in that. Even with the Jackie Chan, you call that dancing, but it's still more fighting than this. I did like though the rooftop scene was creative. When Sho has to jump across the gap.
That's so stupid though too, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you see the guy. He's like, well, I could do it too. And Sho turns around. I love how Sho perfectly he's being chased just to turn around and watch the guy fall.
That was stupid.
And then he walks away. I was like, come on. Yeah, it's like I said, there's some stupid stuff in here when it comes to the plot and everything. But overall, like I said, this is a one and done movie. This is like a movie you'd probably find at a VHS, maybe at a car show, and like here for $5, here's this bootleg, DVD or whatever, $3, and you pick it up because I can't see anybody going out and be like, I'm gonna pay $25 for a Blu-ray of this.
They're out there.
It is though. It's which drives me nuts. I would rather watch. Like I said, I'd rather watch Death Race 2000 or something which I did find at a car show. That's why I first watched it, a bootleg. But yeah, show would have been great. Going with either being teamed up with Jackie Chan or Chuck Norris.
The interesting thing about Sho Kosugi in the 80s, when we were talking ninja stuff, obviously, I mentioned the ninja movies from Canon. He was there was a show in 1984 that blew my mind because as a young kid watching, older stuff, from my parents, particularly my father, I obviously watched like the Wild Wild West and
the martial art kids.
Well, you would have like Kung Fu. I watched that a lot too, and you would get your guest stars and this and that. And sometimes you're like, oh, I think this person was in this show, and your concept of time when you're younger is a little bit off too. But like the Rifleman, I mean, that's a great show. So I remember seeing this one guy that was just I had no idea who he was, but he had a way of talking. I'm like, oh, that's Snake Plissken. So there's a show that came on for one season with one of the Van Patten kids. It was called The Master. And Lee Van Cleef, yes, that guy, Snake Plissken's the guy that gives him the deal to get out. That badass guy, he plays like a ninja, and he drives around in like an 80s like shaggin' wagon with his dopey kids that he's like a master ninja. So he's training this kid like how to be a ninja, and it is absolutely horrible and wretched. But as a kid, because it's got Shokusugi as a ninja in it, I'm
Yep.
watching it
Yeah.
because I'm seeing ninja in every episode. I'm seeing the throwing star, I'm seeing the explosive stuff, I'm seeing swords. I'm hearing Lee Van Cleef and the only way he can deliver stuff, much like a Jack Palance, where I just go, it sounds like complete shit, but I'm buying it because of the way you're saying it because you're a ninja
like
master. Kosugi was everywhere when it came to ninja in the 80s. He was the ninja master of the 80s that made it all popular.
Jeff Speakman is the perfect example of that. You bring in cops, and you bring in like the cops are useless. Bring in a martial artist, and like you just go into the mean streets of San Francisco. Like I said, I love that. Yeah, when you like, I watched for most of it, I watched the original when you're talking about the Dave Carradine Kung Fu. But then the one I loved the most though was the sequel to that, where he trained. He was the guy who was Billy or something. He was a cop.
Oh, the cop show in the 80s where they kind of where he's like the grandfather or something.
Yeah. So I like that one. I thought that was really awesome for that, too. And then you got a lot of shows where kind of like branching off of that. You had Renegade,
Lorenzo Lamas, baby.
Yeah. Like I said, who also was friends with Chuck Norris.
I did not know that.
I think his friend
Lorenzo Lamas was a pretty boy,
and he got
a lot of crap for having a mullet, but he was always on the underwear commercials. Like, even I feel more comfortable in my DVDs.
If he wasn't in Chuck Norris movie, I think he was in. I'm thinking of the other one, Steven Seagal. He was in Steven Seagal movies. Yes. But I mean, martial art cops. There's only one that comes to mind.
Lone Wolf McQuade.
Well, other than that, they know. The one we watched, the one that
the Karate Cops, the one with Cynthia Rothrock, the other Cynthia Rothrock movie.
Well, no, there's that. I'm talking about the really bad one with the guy. It was like a ripoff of Miami Vice. You had the cop who was a kung fu artist. He swore violence, and he was forced to work with his partner, who's a black guy, and they had I forget what it was called. It's so much I burned it on my skull.
Of course, I don't think you're referring to the Orlando, Florida filmed at the University of Central Florida, Miami connection with a legitimate Taekwondo master.
No.
Kim.
No, this was, oh my gosh. We watched the sequel. Tommy Wasso or Whitesell was in it. It was in the sequel. There was it kills me because we reviewed it with Pixel. I think we forced Pixel to watch it too.
Right.
Oh, I have to look it up, man. But anyway, my point is like, we love the games like Streets of Rage. We love those, playing those, or Kick or Double Dragon. Side scrollers. You're just doing karate, killing up the bad guys. That's what we want in movies, and that's why these movies work. Now, like I said, this kind of felt pretty 2G. They should have showed some skin here. I'm just saying it's 80s, but this is late 80s. They're kind of going away from that a little bit.
Boobs, some bush, some butt. The 3D.
Something like a hot, sweaty, thing. But I don't think Shaw was that kind of person. Jean-Claude Van Damme, though, was different, and that's why you saw in his movies, Stallone. They're known as they were the sex appeal. They're the bad guys, the hunky good guys that were, that made the girls swoon. Shaw was just like, I'm just the dad. Hey kids, how's it going? He was the Danny Tanner that fought.
Oh God, yeah, it's a movie that I always had on my list of saying, okay, I got to watch it before I die. Not because it's great, but because, sometimes you just get emotionally committed or you make a pact to yourself that you need to. And this was definitely one of them to me. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. Yeah. There's really not much to say about it other than if you don't want to really have to think and you just want to put something on and go, oh my God, it's something I haven't seen from the 80s or I have something I haven't seen with Shokosugi or jcvd. Yeah. Let me put it on. I didn't know this exists. Then it's great, in that sense.
I had saw it on his IMDb list about a few years back. I never thought I'd actually see this movie because I don't know anywhere you could find it. Luckily, Tubi had it, and I was like, "Holy crap, it's actually on there! Let's watch it before it's gone."
Yeah, Tubi's been a gold mine, and always has been. So that's something that's really really cool too.
A lot of martial arts on there. We watched Sister Street Fighter or just Street Fighter. It's on Chiba. So Tubi is a gold mine, and we should get paid for shilling them as much as we do. But if you're
Tubi, my address is there below. Contact me directly at robmedia.net. We'll figure something out there. Okay. I mean, but of course, I would have to disclaimer to everybody. All right. Anything you need to plug before we call it a night here?
Just said in a half an hour, I'll be going live talking about some comic books. I'm gonna do my top 10 on the channel, on my channel for the first time. Usually I do a top 5, but Zach's not around, so I'm doing a top 10 comics I'm looking forward to this week.
So whatever happened to Philip Michael Thomas, he's the other guy in Miami Vice who's not Don Johnson. He cut a few albums, you know, with women like around him while he's singing and stuff like that, like soul R&B. And I've seen the videos. I know that it's him. I couldn't tell you what those songs would be. But then again, Don Johnson cut an album or two. And when he came out with Heartbeat, I mean, that was probably peak in that career for Don Johnson. Not that he hasn't done good things since or before, but wow, Philip Michael Thomas, you know, that show's incredible. That is albums or albums, as some people would like to say that. Oh yeah, Phil, he wasn't a smooth R&B guy because he didn't quite have that voice, but he had that kind of upgraded, how would you want to say it? So Motown kind of sound, I think, if I recall. God dang it. Before we call it a night, since somebody's referencing Philip Michael Thomas, I'll have to fill this up to you so that way people just know that I'm talking truth here from the 80s. Philip Michael Thomas singing is what I'm Googling right now and going straight to videos. Philip Michael Thomas, Just the Way I Planned It, Undiscovered. She's So Sweet. She's So Something. Oh, yeah. 1988, as a matter of fact. Now, this guy was very smooth. He was not, I don't think, he was a great second person, but I don't like to call him a second fiddle because when you get something great like the 1984 and a few years after that, the Granada British television show Sherlock Holmes with Jeremy Brett and his the guy that plays the doctor and with him and all that, his Watson, those guys to me are like equals. And the first time I ever saw that was in the Wild Wild West with him, and was it Artemis Gordon, I think, is his other person with him, where they travel on a train. But Philip Michael Thomas to me is in that vein of really great guys that are like a 1A 1B. Yes, we all know that in Miami Vice that Don Johnson's a star, but he's made a star because Philip Michael Thomas is so damn good and has his own thing. But Philip was kind of funky. He kind of a dance beatish kind of guy. I'm looking at several videos right now. They are there. But yes, I clearly remember this. After that, who knows what the hell he did. But I always remembered, oh, the guy that also sang. So, you know, it was in the 80s. People were occasionally trying to sing, but they usually could, unlike today. Yeah. So there's your Philip Michael Thomas moment here from the Xtreme Movie Show. Anything else there, RDV?
Not much. Just trying to find that. You didn't add it to the playlist, so I have to individually look for that video. It's a really low budget cop one. The guy with the long hair, real tall, and he has the hot blonde.
Samurai Cop?
Samurai, yeah, that is. There you can see, you knew right away. I said, like, this is way better than Samurai Cop. It's, you know.
See, there was a type of music in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s that come from New York, come to Miami, then come up here to Orlando, and it was called like New Jack, and it had a certain like sound to it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it got really popular, of course, in the mid 90s there, and you'd have your different subsets. And in the 80s, there's another kind, and is it freestyle I'm thinking of, or like that? That they play a lot, like in the roller rinks. You don't know anything about this, or barely remember if you do. And of course, Pixel doesn't even know what roller rink is.
We had roller rinks, skate you, and all that.
Well, you probably have ice skate because you have ice on the ground.
No. We actually have actual skate, 4 skates, not in the line, not bleeding, just 4 skates. And we had like pinballs, arcades on South, popcorn, hot dogs, and get like we saw on Skate Town USA. We had that here. Yeah, we still have 2 of them.
Yeah.
They're crazy. It's crazy going into them. It's like, holy crap! I stepped into like the 80s.
well, the 80s. The thing with the music is like this movie didn't have much of a soundtrack to me in it, but the synth really hit critical mass, and so you'd hear that in a lot of stuff when we talk about John Carpenter and others, and great scores, not just the orchestral ones, but the synthesizer ones and moodiness and stuff. But you also, like I was saying, I don't know if it's freestyle or what the hell the damn name of it is, not rapping, but the music, and it would have like a dance kind of beat. But you also had certain electronic drums, and so Philip Michael Thomas, again, it was kind of like that too, and it was interesting because the adult movies at the time stayed more movie-like-ish with plots and scenes and acting and all that, as opposed to how it is now, where you know, they have 2, 3 cameras because everybody's attention span is 3 seconds, and you know it's overproduced and everything. And back then you'd have, you know, a soft filter and low lights and sexy sax playing, and you would have that in '80s movies as well. Just Speakman comes to mind. Somebody had mentioned
Yeah.
that
I,
on
I
Twitter feed, and I said, well, count, you know, he's doing the actual like 13 variations of the one thing that he's a black belt in. While he's doing it, he's not just, you know, flexing and flirting around for the camera.
Mhm.
But it's just was different when Speakman came on. That's why I think JCVD, I look at him and go, he kind of was the right guy at the right time, because there's like the second wave. You had your ninja stuff in the '80s, but then it became guns and explosions. Then you had a little bit with the JCVD. I'd like to say Jeff Speakman, because he really only had one big movie and the rest were okay. Or low budget ones. But then you also had, like say, Seagal at the time too, which of course we've mentioned on a lot of the other martial arts movies we've covered here on the Extreme Movie Show.
Yeah, I do. It's one of the things I love about '80s was the synthwave music. You know, whether it's Beverly Hills Cops, you know, or you know, you're watching Miami Vice, you know, Magnum PI. Everything had an awesome intro. Cartoons had rock intros. It just all of them. You had the saxophone, the guitar, especially the saxophone, dude. The Miami Nights or Miami Vice with the saxophone, uh, the white sports coats over the pink shirts, you know,
Pastel
yeah.
colors. That was a Florida thing.
Oh yeah, was it Romancing the Stone? Same thing. You saw with Michael Douglas wearing the same thing. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Women with the skirts,
Big
you know,
hair.
big hair, poofy shoulder pads.
Yep.
'80s, like I said, '80s will always be peak. I'd say '70s to '80s.
Yeah.
'70s go, and then by the '90s, yeah, it's kind of gone away. '90s became kind of like Saved by the Bell, kind of like
It
that.
kind of really didn't have a style. It was dying
No,
off, and then it
no,
kind
it
of
was
became.
it was tie dye, wasn't it? Like the more the '60s stuff come back.
If you went to a gym, yeah, you had your protein stuff and your tie dye stuff and your fanny pack, but you know, nobody wants to remember the '90s because
Hey,
they
fanny
suck so
packs are
bad.
great. Don't knock them, man. You can keep all your license to kill in them.
Well, you go ahead and wear yours, and I
I,
won't.
I will that. I'll have my survivor. Hey, that's all. If MacGyver is gonna wear one, I'll wear one. You know.
But he's Canadian, so it doesn't count. He's not American. I
I'm
mean,
here, Canada.
you want to bring these rules up? I'm just going to explain to you how it is. You know?
There are no rules, man.
Yeah,
Rules are
Canadians
for
go
for
on their own set of rules.
squares, bro.
Well, when we do more Canadian movies, we're going to talk about differences between what Canadians will do versus Americans. We've talked about that with some horror films, particularly a body horror ones, Cronenberg Senior to be specific, but we haven't done a lot of his. And then there's also the raunchy sex comedies that the Canadians would have like in the '70s and '80s compared to what we've done
Porky's
here
American or is it Canadian?
Porky's was filmed actually here in Florida, not too far from
Okay,
Orlando, I
okay.
think, South Florida.
There's so many.
But I don't know that that's Canadian.
There's so many movies like the '80s. That's another. We just talk about the martial arts and the extreme stuff, but we never really get into like, you know, the '80s party scenes. You know, like Back to School or Summer Rental or Summer School. I sorry. And then you had all the, you know, the Bikini Beach and all the crap stuff. There's so many of them out there,
Yeah.
and they're a dime a dozen. You know.
But they don't make them anymore. So there you go.
No,
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
That it's because people doesn't know how to funny one. The basic the dweebs one, the ones the prudes, the
You mean
ones who couldn't handle.
Revenge of the Nerds was popular too. Jesus. Yeah, all this
Yeah.
because we're not talking about Black Eagle. If you're a fan, go see it. End of story. That's it. Otherwise, don't bother. I mean, not that it's bad. It's not bad. It's a little different.
No.
But it's just it's one of those niche films that, again, you got to be a connoisseur of what you're watching to enjoy this.
Exactly. You have to be a fan of show and you have to be a fan of JCVD. I watched because I was like, dude, like they're both in the same movie. Holy crap! And I went into it knowing a little bit about it. The only thing I knew was that the Van Damme was the villain in this. And that was about it.
Wish you were the villain more. God, that would be so good.
Honestly, I wish Chuck Norris was the villain more.
Well, once in a while, we still get somebody checking out our Slaughter in San Francisco video where he kind of is, but he's not in there a lot. So he really seemed to have the right idea in protecting his image. Whereas Kosugi here in Black Eagle in this film, while he's technically the lead, to me, he feels like a co-lead.
He is with
And
the
it's not a knock on him, but he doesn't have the charisma to carry film because he's used to being a heavy and doing all the background stuff. Whereas Van Damme it's been 5 years now here in the States looking to have a big breakout, and of course he would a little bit later. And he's got the talent and he's got the looks. Temperament, that's always something else to discuss. But boy, what would only take place a few months from now when the next movie would come out.
Show never seemed like a lead man. That's why, and it's between him and Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan was more popular. He also, every movie he's in, he's usually the lead unless he's doing a weird team up movie like Rush Hour. Otherwise, even then he's still the lead guy in there. He's the guy you watch for the action.
Yeah.
But I don't mind when you have it's not a knock on show. I mean, we like Leas Madam, which is also known as policeman or policewoman, and they have Sita Rothrock and you have Michelle Yeoh teaming up together. I thought that was kind of cool too. I'm like, 80s, like two martial art women teaming up. They take on bad guys in the 80s in Japan. I'm like, sign me up, dude. It's to Tokyo, Japan in the 80s. I like just like we watched Chuck Norris. I like looking at San Francisco before all the shit was on the streets.
Yeah,
I like looking at Tokyo and all that stuff. I like looking at some places I've never been to. Because I could go to these places. Like actually, I could go to Tokyo and be like, it's way different than what it was in the 80s.
Yes,
it's a totally different experience.
I know people that go overseas quite often, different places, particularly over there, the Asia and in Europe. And we talk about it was like when I was over there and the comparisons, and that's what we do here in Xtreme Movie Show when we talk about the 80s. Ed's making a comment here in chat about growing up on raunchy 86 comedies in the VHS boxes would get them to rent them because that's true. You'd only get to see them late at night, like after I think 8 or 9 o'clock on like HBO or Cinemax, mostly HBO. Yeah, Cinemax had more of the sort of adultish, erotic type stuff, which had sexual relations in it, but it wasn't hardcore. Yeah, exactly.
Red Shoe Diaries,
Emmanuel, and all that. So we haven't talked about that stuff, and it's interesting because the VHS stuff, you could make a cheap raunchy comedy like a coming of age where people are just looking to get laid, or older guys going down to spring break trying to get laid, or just girls wanting to lose their virginity. In other words, wanting to get laid, and it was just kind of dopey and silly. But again, it was kind of in the 80s. It was kind of fun. It's what people did. They didn't make it a big deal for the most part in these films, or treat it hardcore seriously. But you can make it and be somewhat entertaining with it. And there's several
Better Off
like
Dead
that.
was just about a guy who got dumped by his girlfriend and he wants to try and win his girl back and finding another girl. It's better.
Yeah, you never win your girl back. There's no such
thing.
No,
you find someone's better.
You didn't know that in the 80s. You believed it was true.
Yeah, the 80s, everybody had hope, man. Whether you had misguided hope or not, you had hope. You would just, and if you and you also looked at it as like, is when one door closes, another door opens. It's dating. Oh, it didn't work out with this girl. I'll work out with the next 10, maybe. Who knows? Life was one big party for most people, and by the 90s came, really, you grew up, you're out of high school, you're like, oh shit, like that's when reality set in. But for the most part, 80s was just full of happiness.
All I'm gonna say is
you had talks of Cold War going on, all that crap in the news.
No, it was in the news, but it was not in everybody's mind. It was getting over the inflation in the 70s, and now all of a sudden, there's this optimism in the 80s and all the cultural stuff. I mean, honestly, that's how it was.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's once more for this movie. If you like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and you like show, and you like watching his son get his cane fight a little bit, and you like a semi-decent, attractive blonde here, who plays the CIA. It's basically like you're visiting Italy. You get to see all the sites. They actually take the real things, the museum stuff. So you get to see some cool stuff.
The backdrop's great.
Yeah,
it's fun. And the thing with Tubi that when you watch it on there, typically it's not edited. Typically it's the fuller version or director's cut or what you want to call it, a few extra minutes here and there. I would say that when you see a movie like this, you get it's a little bit of a bonus seeing that. But like I'm getting ready to walk up here and there's something that the Mrs. Xtreme's watching downstairs, and I'm going, okay, that's Anna de Armas. I think she's driving an SUV like she's a school mom. I might be wrong. And then there's the guy that plays Avenger. Is that Chris Evans?
Chris Evans.
Yeah, so obviously he'd ran a cycle, put on a good 20-30 and all that, and kept most of it when he got off.
Captain
America. Yeah. And so he's playing the aw shucks farm boy guy that doesn't know that she wants to bone on Captain's D. And so they're in Washington and they're walking around having coffee. He's all shucksing it up with her. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then they get to these stairs and he's going to race her up there and like a date sort of thing. And of course, it's the Exorcist stairs. And she's like, I never get scared of movies because you can choose to turn them off. And he's like, I'll race you up, and if you win, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, he's asthmatic, and he takes his inhaler, and she's like, what do you want, pity? And he's like, no. And I'm like, no guy ever fucking talks like this, even in the 80s. At least the 80s were dumb and raunchy, but you could kind of talk like the way they did in the 80s films. They run up, she beats his ass. Then, I don't know, she tells some sad story about coming over from another country because she's got her accent, which gets in her way of, taking it to the next level. But that's just what movies have turned into today. It's like, give me a raunchy's 80s sex comedy or something like this occasionally. It's a breath of fresh air compared to all the stuff that's out there today. It's just how I feel.
It's not, I mean, that's why I always like the John Cusack movies, Boy Meets Girl stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of more positive movies. Obviously, it wasn't real, but I mean, you had the trope, like, he made the girl next door the perfect girl, you're like, oh, it's great. The hopeless romantic, and then you see how that guy turned out to be in real life.
We'll get to Chopping Mall and a few other things too. So, like, I'll just reiterate to everybody. We'll take suggestions on movies. We had Vampire one by Byzantium, and just the idea of talking about some movies that have vampires, and we're not obviously vampires are just so hot right now and never seem to be. They always seem to have occupied the top spot when it comes to horror, but God damn it, there's other stuff out there.
There's so many Hammer movies we can watch too.
Oh, I know.
There's so many. We reviewed the Frankenstein, Curse of the Frankenstein, all those.
Yep.
So I mean, if you guys want any more of those, we can look at that. I know we reviewed The Mummy at least on this channel. If there's any vampire movies if we haven't done this channel, do you think we should check out? Let us know down in the comments down below.
Yeah, go obscure, go whatever. Not as a lark, not as a joke, but as a thing, because everybody's going to talk about the hot, horror movie comes out, and sure, that's easy to do and talk about, but some of the other ones that are a little bit off or different or still just as good to me, I think. But
vampires, werewolf movies, that's what it is for me. I don't care about ghosts and all the other slasher
sexy
stuff.
Babysitters and the occult do it for me, bro. Every time. I'm just saying. Hansel. Hansel. I didn't mind Hansel and Gretel, to be honest with you. I mean, it's no Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but then again, very few things are. Girl Walks Alone at Night is a good one. I think there was an Iranian one there. That was not bad.
They really didn't sugarcoat a Hansel and Gretel.
What's that?
They really didn't sugarcoat Hansel and Gretel.
And they shouldn't have.
No.
That's the whole point. Treat it seriously, and you're going to get serious results. Or you can, at least. All right, guys, there you have it. Black Eagle 1988, show Kosugi and jcvd and the Kosugi clan. Who cares? Go see it.
Yeah.
Don't, whatever. Let us know what you think.
Also, should we bring back Kicking It? Do you guys miss the theme?
I miss it. There's not enough people listening to this to give us feedback on which ones they like, but I liked it too. That's a little OBS special I had dialed up before we did the StreamYard bit. So, yeah, I still have it. It's still there.
I'm sure you do.
I still have my soundboard. It's still there. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for watching, listening. Thanks for retweeting. Let everybody know we exist. Really appreciate that. Last 4 or 5 videos kind of took off a little bit for us, which is kind of cool. I'm really looking forward to our march to 1,000.
If you guys can share this out, our channel, this channel link, put it on. If you're in Reddit, if you're on Twitter, whatever social media you use, we're just word of mouth. Help us get to 1,000.
Well, here's what I'll say too. I've talked about backstage with you, but if any of you guys in chat, especially your long timers here, trust somebody's other channel as far as that, and you think they would want me to come on, or RDV, or both of us to kind of promote our channel, talk about what it is, or do a sit-in with them reviewing something, we typically don't get into the politics of it. We joke mostly about, the food, the fashion, the plots, the women, the stuff that happens to what we like did. And obviously you guys know how we are with it. Let me know. You DM either one of us or both of us, or reach out to me through Twitter on a private message or something. That way I can look them up. I surely do not have the reach that you guys have, because I'm only on Twitter for this. So RDV schools me on a lot of things, as well as Professor Pixel, and that's always appreciated. But I know you guys out there have a lot more experience with it. I was recently a guest on somebody's sports channel not too long ago, just for a brief 20-minute call in. A lot of people came over here to Xtreme Movie Show for it, and I didn't even think twice about it. I was busy talking about Wilt Chamberlain, the current state of the NBA. But since this is a movies focus type show, and we do some TV and all that, again, if you guys know somebody, let me know. Be more than happy to strongly consider that too, to get word of mouth out too. That helps us sharpen our game too, and it's a small world where people aren't too jerk offs with each other as far as all that stuff goes too. And so you know how we are. Let us know. Have a good night, guys.
Later, guys.